is supposed to get out of that problem. But now, if you don't have the pilot on the aircraft and they're flying a drone 1,000 miles away from where they are, and they really aren't in the cockpit, how are they going to know what's really happening? You can't. Our systems aren't good enough for that. So, can you really blame them if they run into unexpected or undetectable weather? And that's one of the debates I'm having with the FAA, because I think weather is rising into a hazard and a risk itself. Because if you don't have a pilot on board, who's going to manage that risk, right? The only way you can manage it is by having better data. So I think where we're going is what we're seeing with drones, and what we're seeing, and a lot of these, crewed aircraft, it's flying into IMC conditions, like helicopters that don't expect it and run into a power line. It's a GA here in Montgomery County that went into a power line at an airport due to running into unexpected IMC conditions. Sometimes it's wind shear, wind gusts. It depends, right? But on drones and air taxis, what we are seeing is that, they're not, they're smaller, they're lighter, they're battery powered, which means now, you have less energy available to deal with things at your landing point, because now you're landing and you're not lighter like you used to be with fuel. Now you're the same weight and you have less power. And these issues are going to start coming to roost, especially in urban areas where winds are not, we don't measure them. Like, we don't know what the winds are at a vertiport, really, unless you have an ASOS there or a measurement. And a lot of heliports and even, regional airports, I would say GA airports don't even have weather measurement equipment. And so, this is going to be a problem that's going to increase their uncertainty. And so what we're seeing right now is about a 40% cancellation rate due to weather, but weather's not the reason. Sometimes, about half the time, it's uncertainty, and using the nearest meet target that doesn't apply to the location they're flying. So this is what I'm trying to get my head around, working with industry and trying to, highlight that this is an issue that's going to start roosting. And it's going to, we've proven that better data and better management of weather risk can get you more flight time if your processes are there and the data's there.
Yeah, and you talked a little about the risk management approach that you're working on. How does the use of your technologies impact the risk management approach of operators using them today?
Well, I'll give you an example. We have some drone delivery companies today that have to fly on a schedule in order to make money. There are longer range drone operators that can fly BVLOS that are using certain rules that allow them to stay near the obstruction that they're measuring and things like that. But, they could time that. Those inspections don't have to happen that moment. If there's risk, they could just cancel it, and then the cost is just on the people you put out there, and they're not working the things you expect them to work that day. But if you're talking about delivery of packages or some kind of like drone as a first responder, public safety, where you're starting to depend on drones to actually take the place of human manpower that was doing things in the past, you can't just sit on the ground in uncertain conditions. You really, I know the public safety is going to push the line, and they should, right? Because the risk difference is, somebody's life versus losing a drone, right? But these drone delivery companies,